So far, we've learned about the treble and bass clefs. We've learned that these help us to determine what notes fall on the lines and spaces of the staff. But why do we need more than one clef in the first place? Well, to understand this, we need to look at the concept of an instrument's range. Let's take a look at the range of the piano. By range, I'm referring to its span of notes from bottom to top. The modern acoustic piano has a very broad range with 88 keys that span about 7 octaves. By comparison, most other instruments cover roughly 3 octaves or so. Because the piano has such a broad range, it's commonly used by composers not only to write for it, but also to write for other instruments as well. Due to its broad range, however, you can see the problem when it comes to its notation on a single staff. You see, the treble clef only covers the notes D above middle C to the note G an octave above middle C. Looking at the piano keyboard, that only covers the notes from here to here. But what about all the notes above and below those notes? What if I want to use those notes as well in my composition? Well, this is where the bass clef comes in. Certain instruments like the piano and the harp as well, which cover such a broad range of notes, use both the treble and the bass clefs together by way of what's referred to as the grand staff. And here you can see the grand staff, consisting of a treble clef on the top staff and a bass clef on the bottom staff. And notice this brace symbol to the left of the grand staff. This is what lets you know that both of these staffs are to be used by the same player or instrument. In the case of the piano, the treble clef is mainly covered by the right hand, and the bass clef is mainly covered by the left hand. Let's look at how the notes on the lines and spaces correspond to the notes on the piano. We'll look at the lines first on both the treble and bass clefs. So here they are, the notes falling on the lines of the treble and bass clefs, which we learned previously. And the relation between the bass and treble clefs is that the notes of the bass clef are lower in pitch than the notes of the treble clef. The notes on this bass clef fall to the left of the notes on the treble clef on the piano keyboard. So now we've essentially expanded the staff to cover a wider range of notes that are playable by the piano. We've gone from this range of the treble clef now to this range by including the bass clef as well. Now, if you're a pianist or a harpist, obviously you need to learn both the treble and the bass clef. But what about other instruments that don't cover such a wide range? Well, I would still recommend for everyone to learn both of these clefs for a few reasons. First of all, if you want to compose for instruments that use one or another of these clefs, you really want to be able to read these. And then when you want to do some score reading, or perhaps adapt some sheet music to your particular instrument, like if you're a double bass player and you want to perform a melody from a lead sheet that has the melody written in the treble clef. So to review, we've talked about the grand staff in this video. We've talked about how it puts the treble and bass clefs together in a single system intended to be played by one player or instrument. We saw how using both of these clefs accommodates an instrument like the piano, which covers such a broad range. Now, you might have noticed that although this grand staff takes care of many more of the piano's notes, it still doesn't cover all of them. So what happens when you want notes that fall outside of the staff's range? Well, let's move on into the next tutorial now, and we'll see what we can do about that.